One of the things I've been aware of increasingly throughout my life is that those who actually care about the environment, those who care about the planet, and those who have actually got to say something are actually very few. If you go to people in the street, they're mainly interested in getting on with their lives, not really interested in recycling, not really interested in reusing things. But one thing that I only know one other person discusses with me is the issue that the problems to the world's environmental collapse must in fact rely upon not the ozone layer, not reducing carbon emissions, not doing recycling and all these other things. Actually relies on human population. My grandmother said in the late 1980s, about 1988, I was in a kitchen. She's no longer with us. And she said to me, she said, do you know what this planet could do with is a good war? And I didn't really understand what she meant. And then she said, we need to reduce the surplus human population. Now, for somebody, I wasn't 15 back then, I was 13. For somebody to hear that, I was actually quite appalled. My grandmother was a peace-loving person. And that statement's lived with me all these years. I'm in my 40s now. And I've gone through stages where I've tried to reuse things, tried to recycle things with quite poor results. You build up loads of aluminium and metal in your garden and you don't take them to the recycling bin. And the next thing you know, you've got a big pile of it. As I've been going down the streets, I see lots of rubbish flying around and people doing their best to recycle. And then at the same time, I actually start to think, what is actually the problem? We're cutting down loads of trees to feed people. We're producing more because people want more. And then you start to realise if there are less people on this planet, then we're not going to have this problem. Whenever the planet is actually recovered, it's usually due to outbreaks of great disaster. Say, for example, the Great Plague that hit Britain between 1348 and 1352. You know, the great bit of that plague. Bubonic, pneumonic, septicemic, abortive plague, you know, coming into Britain, wiped out in some parts up to 90% of the population. And then we've got woodland recovering and landscapes recovering and all the rest of it. And animal numbers start to recover. What I'm not suggesting for 1 minute is that we should have an outbreak of a great plague, or what I'm not suggesting is that we should be going out killing people. What we should be is reducing human population. You know, the Chinese were on the ball with having one child per couple. I know it didn't really work, but at least their population there was a cap on it. But the main thing is that we've got to do something about human population. Nobody's talking about doing anything about the present climatic collapse in animal numbers. We're talking between 50 and 100 to 200 types of individual animal species, genus, being wiped out every single day. Whether that's true or not, I don't know. But the fact of the matter is, tropical rainforest failing, and so on and so on. And the fact of the matter is, all this landscape is failing because there's more of a demand on water and food, and that's a human demand. It's human beings. Nobody's talking about human numbers. What they're talking about is population getting up to 20 billion and trying to accommodate those people. Oh, we can accommodate 20 billion people on the planet and we're going to be able to feed them as long as we're responsible. It's not going to work. You know, the more people, the more resources that are required to feed them. And nobody's saying anything about it. The more houses being built, the more roads to accommodate these people. I'm not talking about racism. I'm not talking about black or white. People in the West have to be responsible for the amount of children that are being born. People in Africa have to do the same thing. It's not about let's have in loads of Muslims, let's have in loads of Christians. The fact of the matter is we should be talking about human population. So this is my first video about human population, and let's have some comments. Let's be positive and let's see if we could discuss human population as the answer to the collapse of everything on this planet. And that's what's going to happen. That's what's happening. The collapse of civilization is happening now. Look at the amount of wars that we've got. Look at the amount of poverty. Look at all the problems that we've got on the planet. That question needs to be discussed and answered. This is part 1 of my videos on climatic collapse. The answer is reducing human population by means of less people being born. That's all I'm suggesting. No diseases, no wars. If we stop producing children now, the answer's there, but nobody's discussing it. This is Karl-James Langford. Hope to hear from you.